Hi, welcome to my first maths lockdown live session, and today we're going to get straight into it, all about negative numbers. I'm going to try and do my videos within 10 minutes to give all of you hard-working students out there short bits of information, bit by bit, that you can kind of digest and process, okay? At the beginning of my lessons, I'll write a few things on the board. While you're waiting to either join the session live, when I start doing them live, which maybe is tomorrow or the day after, you can copy down what's on the board while you're waiting, or you could just write as we go along. If you're going to write as we go along, just let me leave you with that. Don't start writing this now, because I want you to focus on what I'm going to say. When you make notes with myself, with the lessons, it's really important that you develop a good set of notes that you can come back to and revise from. So I want you to always put a title, and I will always put this up on the board. This is actually going to be negative numbers number 1, okay? And the reason for that is every time you download my videos, you'll be able to see when I do number 2 and number 3, so that you start off doing the easiest, simplest thing first. So don't forget to write the title and the number, and also write in the date, because that also acts as a second reference in case you do forget to put in the number at the end, okay? Now, let's get going. Why do negative numbers cause so much problem for students? And the idea is that our brains don't like things that are very similar. So the concept of plus and minus is a problem in itself, because we have similar shapes. But the biggest problem comes because we use these as operators. So i.e. Operators, okay? We use this to use it as an add sign, and we also use this as to subtract, okay? So, and we call these operators. It's like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, okay? But also now, we also use this as, we call this a positive, when we use it as a positive number, and this as a negative, okay? And then we start to complicate it even further. We start calling this minus. Okay, if we subtract, we say 6 minus 3. Okay, we also call this minus sometimes. More recently, I've heard some of my students calling this negative 3, when they mean what I was traditionally taught as minus 3. So it all gets kind of all confusing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to stick to these operators, these words. Add and subtract, okay? Because these are the classic operators, and when we're going to do this, I'm going to use the word positive and negative, okay? And I'm going to avoid using minus, because that just is used for both and it's too confusing. Now, the other third problem that you get when you do negative numbers is when you were first taught to do them, you were taught to do them on a number line like this, okay? Now this, I'm just going to move my camera there, so you can actually see it. This is also part of the problem, because the brain has no way to be doing addition and subtraction. We don't like doing things east and west like this, east side, west side, right? Along that way. And so you might have been shown, do your number lines like this. Oops, I nearly missed a little bit off there. But it's not good. And I kind of want to just show you with something very similar that you already do without realising it, probably. If we take up the number 100 and we write down divide by 10, we actually make this really hard on our brain when we write it out in that way, okay? I want to just to show you what happens now. If we convert this and we write it in a vertical fashion, which is exactly what I'm going to teach you to do with this in a minute, okay? Suddenly, it's a lot kinder on our eyes, and we can actually put some structure in there. This actually means 100 parts divided by 10, in case you ever realise that. In case you never realised that a division is the same as a fraction. Alright, well, we'll come back to that another time, another lesson. We cancel top and bottom, and that gives us 10 divided by 1. 10 parts divided by 1 parts, or another way of saying that is how many times does 1 go into 10? Is 10. Now you can see here, this method involves a few more steps than this method here. But what you're actually trying to do when you do this is to read it and process it and write it. And what you're going to see in my tutorials is that I'm always deconstructing everything into steps and structure. And this is going to really help all of you who struggle with these types of things, not just on this topic, but lots of other topics. And in particular, for those of you that are visual learners or you've got SEND challenges, your brains are going to love this so much better, okay? So let's forget this method of doing this way, because there's another easier way I want to show you with the vertical number line, and then you can have a little practice and I shall write the results up when you've done it, okay? So let's just draw the number line. Now I'm using a ruler. I advise you to use a ruler. I want you to get familiar with writing with a ruler every time you do it, okay? On these number lines for this lesson today is 0 to 5 and 0 to -5, and then we can just roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we do is we go upwards in this fashion here, and then we do the opposite. So if you struggle to do that, you're thinking, I can't see the positive bits, I can't see the negative bits, right? The positive bits are always going upwards, the negative bits are always going downwards, okay? And I will show you different ways of doing things in lessons so that you can get a bit more competent at doing something a different way if it doesn't kind of suit your brain the way I'm doing it. But generally, I've developed these methods after tutoring full-time for the best part of nearly 10 years now. And I've twigged better ways of presenting it to students with, students who come to me at higher level, foundation level, Edexcel, AQA, CIE, WGC, OCR exam boards, the Scottish Highers, the Irish Leaving Certificates, all different ways of levels, foundation and higher, etc. And all students struggle with this. So what I'm going to show you with this, the neat thing is, I want you to learn, you don't need to know how to remember a number line because you'll be able to work that out usually, okay? But I want you to remember this, that the arrow points add up, okay? We add upwards, you've heard that a lot, that expression, add it up, okay? And when we go down, the way I want you to remember we're not using the word negative, positive, minus, we're just using the word add up and subtract. Sub, think subway, okay? It goes downwards, okay? If I can get you to picture these things, it's going to help you remember. So, we're going to start off with the first question, -2, -3. Now, I said I wasn't going to use minuses, but look at what you do with a bad habit, all right? So, we would, you can call this whatever you want, -2, -2, whatever. The idea of a sign in front of a number is that's what you have to think about is where your starting point is. So this says it's -2 or -2, doesn't matter which you use. Once you've drawn, you can just start it off there, all right? So although I don't advise you to start using the word minuses, I've got a bad habit of it because I was taught it that way, all right? And you probably have some bad habits too. We're going to correct them. So -2, you start here, and we're now doing the operator, okay? And it's -2 the starting point, then we're doing the operator, all right? And we always do the operators between the two numbers. So here it's subtract, and subtract we go down, and we go down by 3. So 1, 2, 3. So the answer is -5, okay? And I'll quickly do these to try and sit with them in 10 minutes. We have number 1. You can just write it on the side here, or you can I would advise you actually to make a fresh number line every time you do it. So we've got number 1 here, and then and that number has a positive sign in front of it, and that's why we don't show it. If it's positive, we don't show it. We then do subtract 4. So we start on 1, subtract, we go down, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, -3, okay? And you can try these on your own, -4 plus 5, this should give you 1. I don't want you to do it the way I'm doing it, I've been doing it for years. 3 minus 4 is -1. Okay, so you can just do these on your own time in a minute. And then 5 minus 10 is -5. So you can actually write down these answers and make sure you get them correct. Okay. Next follow-up lesson to this is negative numbers number 2, where we're going to do a little bit bigger range, and we show you why we can't always draw out these number lines completely fully, because if the number ranges get too large, we haven't got paper big enough. All right, see you for the next lesson.